It's great that it's loud and fun. Folk poetry lines are still something I'm interested in, but the way I'm producing Linda Perry songs is different. A long time ago, rumors spread about Neverland Ranch, the private world Michael Jackson made for himself to escape the real world. With its own theme park, zoo, and fairy tale setting, it looked like a land out of a storybook. But some people said that behind the magic and laughing, there were secrets, rooms that no one went into, and stories that were kept quiet. Thoughts and questions arose around the world, but no one who knew Michael ever spoke out until now. Little Paris Jackson, Michael's daughter, lived at Neverland when she was a kid. She hasn't said much about her dad's personal life lately, but what she said made everyone stop and think. She finally talked about the mysterious upstairs of Neverland in a rare and emotional interview. As a child, she didn't even know much about this place. Why was it a no-go area? What was going on there exactly? Early life and work. Michael Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana, on August 29, 1958. He is known as the King of Pop. He was the 8th of 10 kids who lived in a small house that was always noisy, full of music, and full of dreams. Catherine, his mother, loved to play the piano and used to want to be a country singer. Along with being a Jehovah's Witness, she worked part-time at Sears. His tough dad, Joe Jackson, was his father. He worked in a steel mill and played guitar in a band in his area. A lot of people also said he was mean and strict, especially when he was practicing with his kids. Michael had a hard life. Most of the time, he felt lonely and emotionally worn out. Joe pushed his kids hard and wanted them to do well, but he also did things that were wrong. Later, Michael would remember Joe sitting next to him with a belt ready to strike any mistake. Some of Michael's brothers supported Joe's ways and said they kept them in line, but Michael had scars from those times. Michael had a hard childhood, but his gift couldn't be stifled. He joined the Jackson 5 with his bigger brothers when he was only 6 years old. At first, he played instruments in the background, but his singing and energy quickly made him the star of the show. The group went on tour all over the U.S., playing in small clubs and even places with strip-tease shows. For little kids, these were strange places to be, but it was all part of their plan to be seen. They got a break when they did open night at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. Soon after, Motown signed them. I Want You Back, their first hit song, went straight to number 1. Other hits like ABC and I'll Be There followed. Michael was a teen hero, and almost everyone knew about him and his voice. Later, around the middle of the 1970s, the Jacksons left Motown and signed with Epic Records. Michael started writing songs and liked the idea of being more artistic. At about the same time, he was in The Wiz, which is where he met Quincy Jones, the music producer. His life would change after this meeting. Michael made his first full-length adult solo album with Quincy in 1979. It was called Off the Wall. It was cool, new, and a big hit. Classics were songs like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Michael wasn't done yet, though. He didn't think that album got enough attention, and he was set on doing even better the next time. That drive led to Thriller, the record that changed the course of music history forever. The charges against Michael Jackson in 1993. Michael Jackson became friends with 13-year-old Jordan Chandler in early 1993 after meeting Jordan's stepfather, who ran a car rental business. At first, everything was warm. Jackson even asked Jordan to bring his family to Neverland Ranch. But on July 8, Evan Chandler, Jordan's real father, suddenly said he would ruin Jackson's career if he didn't get $2 million from Michael. Evan said, "If I go through with this, I win big time. There's no way I'll lose." Jackson hired private investigator Anthony Pellicano, who asked Jordan directly if anything strange had happened. Jordan gave an answer in the negative. The next day, Evan's lawyer called a psychiatrist and made up a made-up case of abuse. The doctor wrote back saying that there was a good reason to suspect abuse. Evan said that letter showed Jordan had admitted guilt and asked for $20 million. Jackson said no, so he sued him for blackmail. Evan read Jackson the psychiatrist's accusations out loud at a hotel meeting in August, finishing with the threat, "I'm going to ruin you." Evan's team kept charging more money for the next week, and in September they sued for $30 million in civil court. When Jackson still wouldn't give in, Evan told everyone about the abuse, and the story went viral around the world. While Jackson was on tour abroad, police broke into Neverland and his other homes. They looked for photos, videos, or medical records that could prove abuse but couldn't find anything. A lot of kids who were near Jackson were questioned. They all said that he had never done anything wrong. Investigators took 2 art books with pictures of boys in different states of naked, but Jackson said he had never opened them and had no idea who sent them. In December 1993, prosecutors asked for Jackson to be stripped naked so they could match his body to a drawing Jordan had made. The facts didn't make sense. But the legal case went on anyway. Jackson asked the judge to put that suit on hold until the end of any criminal trial so he wouldn't have to appear twice. The request was turned down, though. Jackson settled the civil case in January 1994 for about $15 million to Jordan and another $3 million to Jordan's parents. He was already addicted to prescription drugs and had to deal with 2 lawsuits at the same time. It's important to note that the settlement didn't stop Jordan from speaking in a criminal case. Even so, the case was closed by prosecutors in September 1994, after 2 grand juries, 400 witnesses, and months of digging. They said they didn't have enough proof to charge Michael Jackson with a crime, so they dropped the case. The child abuse case in 2005. In 2003, Michael Jackson was in a lot of trouble again when new claims of child abuse came out. A British reporter named Martin Basher showed a program called Living with Michael Jackson, which set off the whole thing. Jackson was seen holding hands with a 12-year-old boy and talking openly about having kids sleep over in his bedroom. Jackson disputed that anything bad ever happened and said that he just loved being around kids in a kind, innocent way. But the public was very angry, and most people were upset by what he said and did. As soon as the video aired in December 2003, Jackson was officially charged by police in Santa Barbara. He was charged with 7 counts of endangering a child and 2 counts of giving alcohol to a kid. These accusations were very serious. Jackson rejected everything and said he was being unfairly picked on. He promised to clear his name because he wasn't guilty. The trial, which was called The People vs. Michael Jackson, began on January 31, 2005. It was the most famous and publicized trial in history, with reporters from all over the world covering it non-stop. Jackson was under a lot of stress and anger during the court hearings. His health even got worse during the hearings, and he seemed weak and tired most of the time when he was out in public. During the trial, Jackson's defense said that the boy who accused him had tried to get money from famous people before. They said that the boy's family was setting up the whole thing and trying to take advantage of Jackson's fame and generosity through his mother. The state said Jackson took advantage of the child's fame to hurt and abuse him. The jury finally came to a decision after months of hearing from experts on both sides, including some famous people. Michael Jackson was freed from all charges on June 13, 2005. In other words, he was found not guilty of all the charges against him. After a long time, in 2009, the FBI made public records that showed they had looked into Jackson's role in both the 1993 and 2005 cases in great detail. The FBI did not find any proof that Jackson had done anything wrong in the records. Jackson was found not guilty in court, but the accusations hurt his personal life and public image for a long time. Even after he was found not guilty, the scandal followed him around for the rest of his life. The money problems he was having. Things didn't go well for Michael Jackson after his trial in 2005, especially with his money. Though he was one of the most famous singers ever, he was deeply in debt and had major money problems when no one was around. Jackson moved to Bahrain right after the trial to live with Sheikh Abdullah as a friend. At the same time, a company called 2C's Records said they had a deal with Jackson, but it didn't last long. After that, Guy Holmes, the CEO of the company, revealed that the deal had never been signed and that Jackson was actually about to go bankrupt because he was being sued in 47 different cases at the same time. For a loan in 2006, Jackson put up some of his valuable music library, which was worth about $1 billion at the time. Bank of America bought the debt from him and sold it to Fortress Investments for $270 million. Fortress gave him a new loan of $300 million, which is about $470 million today, to keep things going. It did come with strings, though. In order for Jackson not to lose everything, his financial advisors pushed and urged him to sell half of his share. The main house at Neverland Ranch was shut down because of this, and Jackson never went back to live there. Things got even better. Jackson wasn't even able to pay his staff on time. Besides the $36,000 in back pay, he owed $100,000 in fines. His court problems and spending too much had drained his money. He tried to get better by writing songs in Ireland, practicing for upcoming records, and briefly returning to the public eye, but his money problems kept getting worse. In 2008, Neverland Ranch was about to go into debt, but he was able to work out a deal with a company called Colony Capital that let him keep it. It made him $35 million, but it wasn't enough to pay all his bills. Jackson was said to be $500 million in debt by 2009. Then he went on his big comeback tour called This Is It, to try to turn things around. The first 10 shows were sold out in hours, and in the end, 50 dates were planned. But Jackson was still months behind on his home payments even while he was practicing, and his finances were still in bad shape. Jackson's story shows that fame doesn't always protect you from money problems, even if you have a huge song collection and are famous. He wasted a lot of money, got sued hundreds of times, and put his trust in the wrong people, which led to a complicated financial estate. Personal problems and changes in careers. During the 1993 incident, Michael Jackson had a lot of trouble. The stress and pressure from the public got to be too much for him, and it started to hurt his health and job. Michael had been seriously hurt while shooting a Pepsi commercial in 1984, many years before that. His hair caught fire, and he was badly burned. He had been taking drugs to deal with the pain ever since. Things got worse after the scandal. He became more dependent on those drugs because of the stress in his life. The pain wasn't getting to him. He had to deal with being betrayed, being sued, and having his perfect image ruined. He said it was one of the worst times of his life. Still, all that stress made him decide to step away from the spotlight for a while. Michael canceled the rest of his Dangerous World Tour on November 12, 1993. He stopped his long-term deal with Pepsi as well. This was one of his biggest brand endorsement deals since the 1980s. Many of his fans were worried about his health and were very sad. In comments since then, Michael has said that he was emotionally and physically broken during those years. It was clear that the incident didn't just hurt his reputation, it turned his whole life upside down. The shocking death of Michael Jackson. The world was shocked when pop star Michael Jackson died too soon on June 25, 2009. A few weeks before the start of a huge series of concerts in London. All of the shows were already sold out, and Jackson had a heart attack that killed him. Not only did no one see him coming, but his death shocked fans all over the world. Jackson was in his rented home in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles, that morning. His doctor, Conrad Murray, had been giving him strong drugs to help him sleep. Some of them were Propal, a very strong drug that is only used during surgery, and sleep aids like Lorazepam and Ma. Slam. Around 12:21 p.m. In Los Angeles time, a 911 call was made when Jackson's unresponsiveness was found. The paramedics got there quickly and started CPR right away. They rushed him to the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center and did everything they could to bring him back to life. After he got to the hospital, doctors worked hard for more than an hour to bring him back. Sad to say, Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. An overdose of Propal, which was given to him by Dr. Murray, was officially the cause of his death. The mix of drugs in his body was too dangerous and could have even killed him. The news itself spread very quickly. This is true, the internet almost went down. Google, Twitter, AOL Messenger, and even Wikipedia were all backed up with people trying to use them. Everyone was looking to see if the reports that some websites were running more slowly or not at all were true. It was an online earthquake that had never been seen before. Around the world, TV networks changed their regular shows to honor Jackson. By this point, MTV had stopped showing music videos for a long time and went back to its roots by showing hours of Jackson's best songs. Other stations showed documentaries, interviews, and live reaction shows, and BET had song marathons that went on for days. The world was sad together. Fans of all walks of life posted memories, danced to his songs, and mourned the death of an artist who had touched them in so many ways. Jackson's death put an end to an era. If you liked his music, dance, or message of love and acceptance, his death left a hole in popular culture that can still be felt today. He was more than just the king of pop. The whole world knew who he was. And on that June day, the world lost a beat, the study of crimes. It was in August 2009, 2 months after the shocking death of Michael Jackson. It was official when the Los Angeles County coroner did his job. He was killed because he took too much Propofol and other drugs that make you sleepy. A few months later, on February 8, 2010, Jackson's doctor, Conrad Murray, was charged with killing by accident. The trial happened in 2011 and Murray was found guilty by a jury. He got 4 years in jail, but he only did less than 2 before he was let out. Jackson could have stopped going to court there, but his singing career was only getting bigger. Jackson got 4 awards at the 2009 American Music Awards, 5 months after he died. 2 of them were for his hits compilation number ones. Fans did more than just vote, they also bought things. Over 16 million Jackson records were bought in the United States in the year after he died, and over 35 million were bought around the world. This made him by far the best-selling artist of 2009. He was also the first act to sell more than 1 million digital downloads in a single week. The energy kept getting stronger. Sony Music signed an amazing $250 million deal with the Jackson estate in March 2010. It was the biggest deal ever for a single artist. Sony got more time to use his back catalog, and the deal promised 10 new albums with unreleased songs and new compilations. Sony kept the deal going in 2017, which showed that Jackson's music was still popular. There was a royalty award of $9.4 million for Quincy Jones' work on Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad that same year. This was yet another sign that Jackson's old records were worth more than ever. The numbers kept going up. As of the end of 2013, more than 50 million Post-E albums had been sold around the world. It was the first time an artist had top 10 hits in 5 different decades in 2014. Also, Thriller was the first record to be certified for 30 million copies sold in the US in 2015. Because of the new rules that take streaming into account, it went on to become 33 times platinum. The next person broke another record. Sony Music paid about $600 million for half of Jackson's publishing rights and master recordings in February 2024. He sold songs he wrote, his Jack catalog, and the records themselves. But not songs from the MJ Broadway show or the upcoming Michael biopic. Experts in the music business said it might have been the biggest sale of a single artist's album ever. So, while courts decided who was to blame for Jackson's death, his fans and the record business made sure that his music would continue to break records long after the show was over. False claims of sexual abuse of children. Even though Michael Jackson died years ago, new claims have come forward that hurt old wounds and sparked conversation around the world. When Wade Robson, a dancer, sued Jackson in 2013, he said Jackson had abused him for 7 years, starting when Robson was only 7 years old. Another man named James Safechuck made a similar claim a year later. He said the abuse happened over 4 years, starting when he was 10. The most surprising thing about these claims was that both Safechuck and Robson had defended Jackson in earlier investigations. However, Both cases were later thrown out because they were made too late according to California law at the time. Robson even testified in support of Jackson at his trial in 2005. In 2017 and 2020, judges also said that Jackson's companies could not be held responsible because there was no proof that either man had a formal or protective connection with the companies. The 2019 film Leaving Neverland came next. Robson and Safechuck told honest, tearful stories about the abuse they said they had been through. A lot of people didn't like the program. Several radio stations in New Zealand, Canada, the UK, and the Netherlands took Jackson's songs off their playlists for a short time. Jackson's family and the state strongly denied the claims, calling the documentary a public lynching and a tabloid attempt to destroy Jackson's reputation. But Jackson's friends and other child stars, like Macaulay Culkin, Brett Barnes, and Corey Feldman, spoke out in support of him and said he never did anything wrong with them. Other movies, like Square One and Chase the Truth, were shown to counter the claims made in Leaving Neverland. Jackson's music sales actually went up after the scandal, and some radio stations later played his music again after hearing good feedback from fans. The story also got banned. Jackson's estate sued HBO for breaking a non-disparagement clause in a 1992 deal and is asking for up to $100 million in damages. Even though HBO tried to get the case thrown out, the judge let it go to arbitration. Then, in 2020, a new law in California gave people who had been abused as children more time to file lawsuits. Because of that change, in August 2023, a California court allowed Robson and Safechuck's cases to go to trial, even though they had been thrown out before. Michael Jackson's image is still one of the most controversial topics in pop culture today. The cloud of these claims still hangs over his name, even though his records continue to inspire millions. The things fans always thought were true. Fans have been guessing and making up stories about Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch for a long time, especially about the bedroom area. People thought that the rooms on the second floor might have secret passageways and rooms hidden inside them. Others, though, said the claims were false because the bedroom wasn't as big as people thought it would be and didn't have the supposedly secret features. The public has a very negative view of Jackson because of past legal problems. His reputation was still being harmed by the accusations made in 1993 and the trial in 2005. Even though he was found not guilty in 2005, the court of public opinion was still split. When the documentary Leaving Neverland came out in 2019, it stoked the flames again, leading to more arguments and close examination of Jackson's past. In Jackson's life, tabloid rumors have often made it hard to tell the difference between fact and fiction. Reports like the one about his supposed color changes were often printed without much evidence to back them up. These stories often took precedence over hard facts, dates, and events that could be confirmed, which led to a confusing and sometimes false public image. Basically, Michael Jackson's story is complicated and often controversial because of fan theories, legal drama, and tabloid gossip. Fans and the public have to find their way through a web of information that is full of guesses. And this is what Paris Jackson finally said about the room above in Neverland. She finally talked about what it was like to sit under Neverland's mysterious upstairs in her first long interview with Rolling Stone on January 24, 2017. Her father was practicing upstairs, so there was noise from stomping feet and dust falling from the roof while she did her homework in the living room below. As proof, she said Michael never really slept. The tone of Paris is soft but heavy. She talks with love in her voice. It made her worry that he was too tired, even though she told him, "Let's take a nap." When the story came out in Rolling Stone, showbiz websites like Global News and ET Online used the quote and framed it as the moment she spoke out about Michael's private space. The public's response changed twice. Longtime foes said her candor showed how closed off the family was, while diehard fans liked it. What was the exact thing on the other side of that top-floor threshold? Court evidence and in-depth news stories give us hints. In 2005, a maid told the jury that there was an alarm that went off when someone got close to the bedroom suite. This added to the privacy. Vanity Fair noted before that the master bedroom had a secret staircase that led to the Shirley Temple room, an attic guest nook where kids would sometimes sleep when they came to visit. When looked at as a whole, the stories point to an area that was set up to be completely private and only for Michael. Paris hasn't shown any dark secrets, all it's given me is a memory of ceiling dust and a father practicing above me. But her short, vivid memory sparked new discussion about how and why Neverland was made, showing that even a small detail can spark global speculation. Projects that help others. The songs and moonwalks are usually the first things people think of when they hear about Michael Jackson. But his generous spirit is another part of him that deserves just as much attention. Jackson started doing charity work when he was a teenager and did it almost like a second job. According to the Chronicle of Philanthropy, his early work set the bar for generosity in show business, and the Los Angeles Times said that his work paved the way for today's flood of celebrity charity drives. It is said that Jackson gave more than $500 million to charity during his time. That's a huge amount of money that doesn't even cover inflation. He did more than just write checks, though. For example, in 1992, he started the Heal the World Foundation and put a few $1,000,000 from the money he made from his dangerous tours right into it. The foundation sent food and medicine to areas of violence, paid for immunizations, and worked with many children's groups around the world. Jackson also made tools for good causes. He sometimes put on benefit shows with a lot of big names. Other times, he just gave away a lot of free tickets to shows so that poor kids could go. During trips, he would get out of the spotlight to visit hospitals. Sitting with sick kids, taking pictures, and leaving a box of toys behind. His tours became known for the behind-the-scenes, off-the-record trips he took. Jackson gave awards, memorabilia, costumes worn on stage, and signed lyrics to charity auctions that raised record amounts of money. Because he gave so much time, money, and personal items to charities, he set a Guinness World Record for the most charities backed by a pop star and won several humanitarian awards. The White House even took notice. On May 14, 1984, President Ronald Reagan invited Jackson to an event on the South Lawn and thanked him for his supportive efforts to stop drug use and drunk driving. Jackson let his #1 song, Beat It, be used in national public service messages, putting his biggest hit behind an important safety message. After years had passed, U.S. presidents continued to honor his efforts. George H.W. Bush praised him for his work in public service, and Bill Clinton thanked him for speaking up for kids who don't have much. Jackson's generosity was a part of everything he did. Tours turned into ways to raise money, and award shows often had gifts instead of speeches. In short, Michael Jackson was not only the king of pop, but he was also a selfless humanitarian who believed that fame should be used to help and heal. He spent decades using his global fame to make real changes in the world, whether it was by giving record-breaking amounts of money to charity, visiting patients in hospitals, or lending a hit song to a safety PSA. He set an example for all the next superstars by being kind. There were amazing highs and terrible lows in Michael Jackson's life, and this part shows how much stress he was under behind the scenes. Please like the video if you liked the story or learned something new from it. It helps us a lot. And don't forget to subscribe if you're a real Michael Jackson fan or just like learning about the little-known parts of his life.